What is going on, everybody? We are back. ABJ Podcast, ABJ Presents Not Cool in High School, episode 156. I saw the TV glow with my co-host, Kim Rose. I'll be in 1 second. Before we do that, I just want to let you guys know, please check out the links below to support myself and my guests in all their adventures. Follow them on social media. If they have merchandise or anything like that, please do that with this episode, past episodes, the whole nine. I've been having an absolute blast doing these movie reviews. It's been a nice little break from doing interviews. I feel like I've kind of, without even realizing I was doing it, these Not Cool in High Schools have been kind of like just me with some amazing scream queens talking some amazing horror movies. Kim has been on before. We talked about Megan. Not Meg, that's a shark movie. Now we're back and we're kind of taking a completely different direction, which is super exciting. So I'm really, really pumped for that. Make sure you guys check out the links below as well for merchandise, t-shirts. No one has bought the Not Cool in High School horror t-shirt yet. Just saying, you would be the first. If you buy any merchandise, send me a photo of you in it so I can post it on all social media so we can show you that love and support. Join the link below for the Discord as well. Join our community where we're talking all things horror, wrestling, video games. There's a channel in there for everybody. So come join the cult of ABJ. Without further ado, I'm not even saying with guest anymore because I feel like a guest is someone that just it comes on once and that's it. Going forward with these movie reviews, I will be joined today by today's co-host, the one, the only, Kim Rose. What's going on?
Hi, nice to see you again. Thank you again for having me back.
Oh, well, it's going to be a thing because that's probably by the end of this, we will discuss future movies that we're going to be reviewing again very, very soon. You know, officially 4th of July is over. So we are in the midst of hot spooky season. This is the hot version of spooky season. And then it's going to cool down. And like Christmas has taken over and Christmas starts like the day after like a week before Thanksgiving. So we're, as a spooky community, we live it all year round, but we're just going to shove it down everyone's throats the day after, like July 5th. All the way until the end of October, you're forced with us. So
let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, I already see like Christmas trees up in like September. So why can't we start early on this?
It's hot ghoul summer. I like that. That's a cool catchphrase there. Yeah, so we are reviewing the movie I Saw the TV Glow. You picked this one and I was like, all right, let's see what this is about. It's an A24 or A24, however you want to say it. We were talking about it beforehand of how it is. I said, listen, if there's any company that I think leaves anything open for interpretation, it's A24. But I kind of want to kick it off to you right away. Is why did you pick this movie? Obviously, this one means a lot to you. This one's super important to you. This one, you got t-shirts, merchandise. And for someone who really likes the slasher and horror and gore, I watched this and I was like, this is not that at all. This is very deep.
Yeah, so the thing that drew me to it right away was I saw the trailer for it the day A24 posted it on Instagram. And right away, I thought it was really intriguing. So I didn't want to watch anything further from it besides, like, I didn't want to see another trailer or anything. Right away, I saw the trailer one time and I was like, I have to see that.
Yeah.
So I was keeping up with trying to figure out like when exactly it was coming out. And like I frequent movie theaters all the time. So once I finally saw that it like popped up in theaters, I was like, all right, I need to go immediately check this out. And it was very underrated, I feel like. And it was in like select theaters at select times. Like out of the 4 movie theaters that I go to, like in like my favorites, there was only one that played it. And there was like very few select showings. Like sometimes it wouldn't play at all in one day. I was like, Well, it's gone now because I actually wanted to go see it a second time. So
Mhm.
when I was looking at times, it was like it would be there for like 2 showings, and then I'd be like, oh, I can't make today. I'll look tomorrow. So the next day I would look, it was gone, and then it would like pop up randomly for another showing or two. Um, so it definitely wasn't widely spread out. And when I went to the movies before that, it was never advertised like in the previews, or even like I didn't see any advertisements for it besides like the one time A24 like posted the trailer for it for the first time.
We're gonna run it by Ziggy over here. Yeah,
Oh,
I think it's really cool when movies do that too, because this movie definitely is going to have a tie-in when it comes to mainstream, right? This is definitely not your mainstream movie. This is not something that isn't going to get those huge releases, and I think it kind of gives it more of its charm. And I think you're part of a very select amount of people who have seen this since the beginning. You know what I mean? Because I think you're part of a really small community of people who are probably on a mainstream horror fan that knew that this was something from the start. You know what I mean? And now people watching it later are going to be like, "Holy crap, this would have been something cool to experience around other people," because this movie is very conversation based. And like I said, I cannot wait to get into it. So let's get straight into the summary of what we got going on here. So I Saw the TV Glow is a 2024 American horror drama film written and directed by Jane Schuburn. I hope I said that right. If I get names wrong, I apologize. I'm terrible with them. Stars a bunch of really cool actors. Fun fact: Fred Durst and Pete are in this movie. Did not know that. That's kind of fucking crazy. Because this, but yeah. It had premiered at a Sundance Festival film festival on January 18th, 2024. It was given a limited theater release by A24 in the United States on May 3rd, with a theater release expanding to Canada nationwide on May 17th, and then received positive reviews from critics. This is the second entry into a Schuburn reveals their screen trilogy. And the first one they did is called "They're All Going to the World's Fair," and then it's this one, and then it's the third one they're going to be doing is a yet unnamed TV project. So the director who did this does have something coming out very soon. But the basic plot of this is in 1996, Owen is an isolated seventh grader who meets Maddie, a ninth grader, when he notices her reading a special episode guidebook for a young adult TV show called The Pink Opaque. The show follows teenager Isabel and Tara as they use their psychic connection to fight off monsters of the week sent by the big bad Mr. Melancholy. Owen sneaks over to Maddie's to watch a new episode and her friend Amanda, and finding himself captivated by that. So that's essentially the plot. This movie has a 100-minute runtime, so it's not bad at all. It goes quick. It had a box office of 5 million, and I do not have what the budget was of this, so I don't know what it cost for them to make it. It's not on Wikipedia, so there's a lot more to seek out to this. I'm not going to go through all of that because I feel like the biggest thing that we're going to go through on this is the movie itself. So the question I put in when I send the notes to the guests or to my co-host is, what were your first expectations? And I think I'm going to rewrite that or reword that, because when I had Courtney on, she said, I don't know if it was Courtney or someone told me, maybe it was Dante, where they went back and rewatched the trailer to the movie first, and then kind of based their opinion going back in the nostalgia aspect to it, or the first time ever seeing it, watching the trailer, then watching the movie. And I think that is a cool idea. So I definitely something I want to do forward, and that's what I did on this one. So I watched the trailer, and I'm gonna be honest, it did not grab me whatsoever. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this. I think this is gonna be too deep for me. I think there's gonna be too much thinking. I don't know if I'm mentally in a headspace to watch this movie. And I did it for the show, and I honestly I had very low expectations. I did not think I was gonna like it. I'm very artsy. I love art. I love people's art, but sometimes when it gets too artsy, it loses me. Right? Sometimes when they're too vague, or they don't give you enough, or they don't hold your hand enough, like mainstream stuff. Mainstream art holds your hand. It tells you exactly what it is. It explains it in over detail. And then there's some movies and art that doesn't do that at all. It kind of the artist kind of puts it out there, and says, you decide of what you think this should be for you. And that's exactly what this movie does. And so my first expectations were not high. How about you? Well, you said, you already kind of answered that. You said you watched the trailer and you were in love with it.
Yeah, I was like, honestly, right off the bat, I was like, I feel like this is a movie that I'm gonna get a tattoo from. So I always try to go into things with like lower expectations, even if I see people being like, "Oh, this was amazing and I loved it" and everything. Like, I still try to not hype myself up too much, as just in case like it doesn't hit me in the right ways that I expected it to. It ended up being like a little different than I expected it, but when I was like so captivated like by this film when I was watching it, and I like there's some movies where I'm like checking my phone, I'm like looking at the time, I'm like trying to estimate in my head how much longer I have until the movie's over so I could
Yeah.
leave. Like with Long Legs, I checked my phone like 3 times and I'm like, all right, 30 minutes left. Like let's get going. But
Interesting.
with this movie when I was watching it in theaters, I was just like completely I didn't even want to go to the bathroom. I had to go to the bathroom like halfway through the movie and I'm like, I can't leave. Like I'm just gonna suffer and I'm just gonna finish this movie because I do not want to miss anything.
Yeah.
So I feel like it definitely it kind of like it I went in with lower expectations, so it definitely like exceeded those expectations. I did.
I'm so sorry. I'm trying to upload a photo, but my computer lagged. I'm so
It's
sorry.
okay.
Everyone's like, what just happened? The
No,
audio
you're
listeners
fine.
are
You're
like,
fine.
I'm confused. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's
I'm
all
sorry,
gonna
you were
happen.
saying, yeah. So you said you were very high on this. Now you said before too that you this is a movie you're gonna get a tattoo of. What have you decided what you're gonna get for this or what you want?
So I actually have like space right on the back of my neck that if I were to get the tattoo that Isabel and Tara have in the movie, where and then Maddie drills it on the back of Owen's neck with the little ghost with the glasses. I have
Yeah.
the perfect space on the back of my neck to get that. So it's like I could either get it there where the characters have it, or I could also get the ghost as like a little filler on my arm somewhere.
You don't have a lot of space
So I
left.
feel like if I were to get something, I got room. I can make it work somewhere.
I love
Yeah, so I'm thinking
you are
that I
also
would
like an art
definitely
piece.
get
Like
that.
you when when you're talking to you the entire time I was talking to you, I'm like looking all over you of like, oh, that's cool. Like you're like an art book. I love it. You have great work. You have great work, and I love the fact of kind of how we said before. You even have a look that like people may judge you immediately on, but and then you start talking to you, and then you're like, oh, like you kind of wear your heart in your sleeve. Everything you're into is on you essentially, and it's on your sleeve. Like, and then it's funny how you're like that. You have that one spot on the back of your neck. It's like out of all the spaces, I like that's usually a space people go to first, and it's awesome that you still have that open for this tattoo because that is a really really cool tattoo idea. I do like that ghost a lot.
I do too. I might
Yeah.
have to do it there. I'll definitely think about it, but 100% I'm gonna get something from this movie.
Yeah. All right. So normally we do 3 or 5 things we liked or disliked about this movie. We'll kind of say this we're going to kind of jumble this together and kind of say if we like this aspect or not like this aspect. But once again, I think this movie is more or less based on what you got out of it, and that's where I want to start here, where I feel like there's people who walk into an art gallery and they stare at the art and they say cool and they move on. And I'm that person sometimes. I stare at someone's art or something someone created. I look at it for a second and I move on. It doesn't grab me. This movie forces you to stare at the picture. Now, I think this movie can go one or two ways. I think you're going to either fall in love with this movie or it's not going to hold your hand and you may not like it at all. That's just my personal take on when you watch this. This is probably the first movie that we are going to review that you're going to have to seek out and have to pay for. It is not on any streaming services. I paid $25 on Vudu for it, so it's something I always own. I'm not mad about my purchase. So I would say definitely check it out. This movie is going to cover, in my opinion, and I can't wait to hear yours, I think it's definitely going to cover a lot of nostalgia. So I think if you could watch this movie from front to back and completely be immersed in a nostalgia experience. That 90s nostalgia, if you grew up in that time, the way the movie's shot, the way it looks like 90s television. You're going to have that moment where even you yourself as someone will have those experiences of when you kind of look back on old art, it may not look the same to you as it does before. So I think 100% this could be a nostalgia kick, and that's all you get out of it. This could be a thing where you may struggle with reality or life or growing up and not understand. And sometimes your childhood is what the way you thought things of a child, and as you get older, could be two different things. This can also, you can pull out your sexuality a little bit in this movie and struggling with being who you are and what you identify as. That's another thing this movie's going to touch on too when you watch this. And also it can touch on just pop culture and nostalgia. One of the biggest things that I love with this movie is the reason I made this podcast, the reason why I do have the Not Cool in High Schools and the Not Cool in High School horrors and the wrestling is because nostalgia is important to me. And what art and what movies and art and pop culture does for people. It's not just watching a movie. It's not just listening to a music. It's not just reading a book. It's almost getting obsessed with it and finding people that are obsessed with their like it inspires me and it excites me to hear people talk about things they're obsessed by. And this movie is that. You know, when you're struggling to find who you are as a person or fitting in or not having, or maybe you struggle with making friends or having those connections with people. And then you go, you like this? I like this. And then you immediately have a friend because of someone else's art. And I think that's really important. And you'll definitely pull a lot of that out of this movie as well. But I want to kick it over to you, Kim. What does this movie grab for you?
What you just said was like perfect. And I relate to a lot of that because, I had my own like the Pinko Pig type thing, how they, Owen and Maddie were like obsessed by it and it meant everything to them. I mean, not to the extent where they weren't with it, but I had my own like escape from reality, like shows and like Marvel and, certain movies and everything that just did it for me that really like made my life so much better. And things where it was like I wasn't having a good day, so like might rewatch the same movie 2 times that day. You know what I mean? Like I would start a morning routine where it was like I'd watch the same movie in the morning while I was eating breakfast and stuff like that. So I had my own like versions of the Pinko Pig show that they did. So I definitely could relate in that way. Like when I was in the theater, I was like thinking of things that I used to be like all crazy about. It's like, oh, the new episode's coming out like this day at this time, and I have to be there and I have to watch it. And I had like a couple of friends that were into it, like I was, or like different episodes for like reading. Like there's multiple things that I could relate to when it comes to like how they felt about it. So I really liked that. That hit me, you know what I mean? It was kind of like right off the bat having that was really cool. Yeah, I love everything about this movie. I watched it for the 5th time today, like right before. I'm still waiting for the DVD release.
Yeah,
what's up with that?
It is not on DVD. I was gonna buy it.
I'm waiting.
So another thing I want to start doing when I get funds and get caught up is I have a pop collection, and I told myself I'm not going to get pop collections again. I'm not going to go that route. But if I can't get it in a pop, I will have to find something, either a T-shirt or something. But every time I review a movie or do something, I want to get a Funko or something of the movie, like a piece of representation to have, so it reminds me of the interview, the person I did it with, and just that experience. Kind of going back to you, if you're a fan of Meg, there is Meg pops and there is Meg merchandise, Megan, all over the place, and it is popping up like crazy. So if that's something you're into, and if you want to check out our previous episode, go check out the Megan one. But I just want to kind of put that out there because I was Googling it, and there's some pretty dope ass Megan pops. The one like her face is all ripped apart, like towards the end. A lot of really cool stuff. But yeah, no physical release of this movie yet. It is only on streaming. A part of me thought A24 movies had like their own section on a streaming service at one point in time, and they had them all on there. And then I went to look, and I remember I could have sworn I seen it, and maybe I'm just bugging, but it's no longer a thing. So I thought like I can do all these A24 movies because they're super creative and artsy. Like I want to go and do more, but yeah, this one's one I had to actually seek out. What is your, if you don't mind sharing, or if it's something you want to keep to yourself, you don't have to, but when you're on your days or where you're not feeling 100% or you're down on yourself, what is your pinko pick?
Definitely Natural Born Killers. That's one
Okay.
that I've watched 2 times in one day. That's just such a fun movie, and I love it. And I also love the Disney movie Princess and the Frog. That was one that I would eat my breakfast to and watch it every morning. There's been like a couple musicals where I've like watched it every day for like a month and then kind of like burned out of it. But I mean, like I'll still watch it every once in a while, like Shrek the Musical. I love that. What else? I also really love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2
Okay.
specifically. That's like another comfort movie, but then I'll skip like the last like 10 minutes of the movie because it makes me sad. But everything else, like the whole movie, except like, a character death happens and then I get really upset. So everything up until the last like 10 minutes of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is like a comfort movie to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a couple little like musicals and stuff, like Phantom of the Opera. I'll put that on, have that in the
Mine's been Rocket
background.
Man. Like during the last year when I was struggling heavily with mental health and just life changes, the movie Rocket Man, like I wouldn't even have to watch it. I would just put it on and go to sleep, or I would just like put it on and cope. Another one for me recently has been the Bo Burnham Inside doc show, like the comedy special he did for Netflix. He's like a
Okay, I
musical
know of it. I haven't seen it.
yeah, but like his voice is very soothing and it's funny, but it's also like comforting. And like during the pandemic, like it was really like I would just put that on and fall asleep. Like it was a really, really good one for me. The Office, Always Sunny are comfort foods for me. Like I always put those on because of the humor. But the Office is tricky because if you're not in the right mind state and they sneak one of those tearjerker episodes, you're like, God damn you, Office.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, definitely. That like I think that's the biggest thing that, like, for this movie that really, really connected with me is just like I can remember a movie or a time or a moment and be like, oh, this movie reminds me of this person. And if they may still be in your life, maybe they're not. Like maybe they're a lost friend or a friendship that's no longer around, or a relationship that's no longer around, or a family member. Like I every time I look at Rocky Horror Picture Show, like I didn't have a great relationship with a family member and they're no longer with us. But and there's still a lot of me that holds resentment or used to hold resentment, and I don't anymore. But like one of the only qualities that we had together that I was like, oh, I will always cherish this is Rocky Horror. Like I see Rocky Horror, I think of her, and I don't think of anything negative. I think of all the positive and like thankful they put me onto this. So even like if you have those moments where someone, you may hate them, you hate their guts, but you're like, at least I'm kind of grateful they put me onto this movie or this song or this, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the beauty of just art and pop culture that like that this
100%.
movie is definitely going to dive into, where like was Maddie the best person for him? Like, was she a good thing for him or a bad thing? Because as we get through this movie, like you're kind of conflicted on that. And I kind of want to put this out there and for spoiler alerts going forward, because we're definitely going to go in this movie. Can you see a world where Maddie didn't exist? Like Maddie was someone for
That
him in
would
his
drastically change Owen's life.
yeah. Like I like because like she can just disappear and no one.
That
And
would,
maybe
yeah. I feel like
yeah, like the sadness of that too is like the world really didn't care or acknowledge Maddie. So it was the only person she really meant to anybody was just kind of Owen. Like, which is kind of depressing to think about. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's
yeah.
that's fucking
And you
rough.
also like, yeah, and even like Maddie, you don't really get to see like her mom. I know she like lived with her mom, and
Mhm.
she fell out with that one friend. I think her name was Amanda, that
Yeah.
she was watching the Pinko Peg with, and then she ended up like all by herself, and Owen and his mom passed away, and then like that his dad, was that like his actual dad, or was that like
I don't know.
his
I think it was.
stepdad or something? They had a weird relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely want to talk
Yeah,
about
they
that
had like
too.
a weird relationship.
Well, Maddie also lives with her father because one of the lines she says too is just be out by morning because if my dad catches you here, he'll break my nose again. So you also kind of get that moment of like, oh, Maddie doesn't have a good family. Like she's also like they're very similar in the aspect of their lifestyles. Owen's kind of little bio is like you kind of see him in the beginning and he's in his school, but his mom's there. You're thinking parent teacher night, and it's voting night. They're going to vote, but he is so helicopter parent by his mother and so like controlled and just attached to his mom that like she takes him into the voting booth with her. Like so like that kind of shows it like how attached he is to his mother, that like he only had one moment to really get away from his mom, and that one moment was just talking to this random girl, and she's reading a book about a show he knew but didn't watch, and then she's like, well, do you ever watch it? And he's like, no, it's on past my bedtime. And he was like, but he didn't want to also admit that because that's not a cool thing to admit to somebody, that you're in 7th grade and have a bedtime and stuff like that. And she kind of dismisses him at first, but then like she kind of gets like, she's also very jaded and very very reserved and doesn't want to put herself out there, but she sees that he's the same way, but they have that bond over something that they don't even know if they have it over yet. You know what I mean? But she's passionate about it, and he showed a little bit of interest, and that was enough to start this friendship. And it was beautiful. Like that moment was super beautiful. She's just like, you know what? Please, I want you to have my book. And then she goes, I'll take it a step further. I want to find a way for you to seek this show out. Let's sneak out, say you're sleeping on, and it devises this whole plan of you like kind of lying to your parents, sneaking out, coming to my house and watching the show. And that kind of spawns this whole, like, not so much a rebellion phase, but just like, once again, kind of seeking out something you're not supposed to, movie wise or just life wise, to kind of break yourself out of this shell. And this show for her is more than just a show. It's her life. You know, she identifies with this. And one of the big things with pop culture that we talk about now in a very political, disgusting world we kind of live in at times is everything is kind of like, oh, well, we don't want certain representation on TV, or why do you have to rub it in our face or throw it in our face? They're not. It's not being thrown in your face. You're just uncomfortable with it. But that what you think is being thrown in your face is representation to somebody else. And representation in pop culture is the fucking world to somebody. And just because it's not representing to you, or it's not something that you identify with, doesn't mean it can change someone's fucking life. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this TV show, The Pink Opaque, was that for her. As a girl who's clearly in the community, whether she's bi, pan, lesbian, whatever it may be, she doesn't feel like she belongs in this world because of her sexuality. And this show gives her that. You know what I mean? But to somebody else watching it, like his dad kind of says in the car, isn't that a girl's show? Like, what are you wasting your time watching this for? But to them, it means something.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you did like some research on the director and everything, so like the director is, is trans, and they, their pronouns are they, them. And like, so it plays into the movie as in like how Owen was like living like unauthentically. And that's in a way like, and with the director, like they had a show that it was actually based off of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the Pink Opaque. That was like the Pink Opaque. And I like how the director tied, and the creator and everything, like the writer, tied that into the story, like their own personal experiences, like into the movie.
Yeah. So yeah, and they have this moment where they kind of watch it the first time, and it gets to the point where he doesn't want to keep breaking the rules or sneaking out. So she's essentially leaving videos in the photography room for him to go home and watch it, because he can't watch it. So like she's going out of her way to record them at home, bring him to school. Like she does little arts on the tape. Like like this is a deep connection they have. But he also said too, he's like, I didn't say more than 3 words to her for almost our entire years of high school. Like we had this deep bond over this show, but we were so introverted that we never really had a full-blown conversation to each other, that shows how deep that connection was over this TV show, you know? there you go. So here you go. Def Mayhem says, for people who are waiting, or if you don't want to go buy it, or maybe you're struggling financially, they are dropping this movie in November on HBO Max. So thank you. I really, really appreciate that, Def Mayhem. That's very helpful. People who are listening to this.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, so we're definitely probably going to spoil things for you, but I'm going to tell you something right now. I was telling Lily, you can listen to a complete breakdown of this movie, but I will almost guarantee you will get your own interpretation of this movie out with even hearing everybody else's. You know what I mean? Like this, I think it's a cool movie to watch. Another thing I kind of got out of it too is I don't know the Pride colors fully. I'm still learning myself or educating myself on it. But if you notice when in the very beginning, when they do the big, this is even how nostalgia, the big balloon in gym, when everyone did the big parachute and you get the air under it and then you hide underneath it and everyone sits underneath it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was like maybe trans non-binary colors around the parachute, which was kind of like a telling thing of like, he's trapped inside this bubble of what he possibly could identify as, of who he is as a person, and kind of struggling. And even when they talk to each other, he says, you know, she's like, well, I'm into girls. Like when he said, I want to come back over to your house, she immediately gets that red flag of, no, that's not what we're doing here. I'm into girls. And he's like, oh, that's fine. That's not what I really was looking for. I just essentially want a friend. And she's like, well, are you into girls? He's like, I don't know. Are you into boys? And she's like, I don't know. He goes, I'm into movies, or I'm into TV shows. Like he's so confused on what he is that sexuality is not even a thing for him. It's, I just want a connection with a human. And if it means this show is my connection, then cool. You know what I mean? Like just, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene when they're sitting on the benches and he's like, I think
so
I like
far
TV
apart
shows.
from each other. Yeah.
Yeah, they won't even sit together.
And he's someone too who doesn't make eye contact with people, because that's like later on after his at high school, and he's going like, and he's working at a job and he's going through life like he like everything is looking down, like he's so lost and so confused in life and never really had that guidance that like he even has a hard time connecting with people socially. And the only person he ever did was Maddie through this television show.
Yeah, and then I like also how it's like him sitting by a fire by himself in the beginning and like at the end of the movie, and he's just like just sitting there like by himself looking into the fire, and then every once in a while he'll like break the fourth wall. And then just be like, oh, she never came back, or you know, some little things like here and there throughout the movie. I thought that was pretty clever too.
What's your theory on Maddie at the end? You never see her again.
I think she was right. I think she was right, especially at the end of the movie when like the ending scene where like you see after he has like that mental breakdown, and you see in the sink where it's like it looks like the Luna juice that, you know, Tara and Isabel were forced to drink by Mr. Melancholy. It looks like he threw that up after he had his freak out at his job. And then the whole box cutter over the, you know, with the TV set and everything. And it was like crazy too. When she first drew the little ghost with the glasses on the back of his neck. And then that night when they were like sleeping next to each other and he was like looking and with the TV static, like that was just there, like floating in midair. I think
like
she almost
was right. He broke into the next world.
Yeah, like there was multiple scenes. I felt like that was it. And then at the end, when he finally had enough and like cut himself open and opened his chest, and it was the TV static, like you could see the relief like on his face, like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like he finally understood, and he was like smiling, and he was like, you know what I mean? Like it looked like he was like relieved and happy. It was crazy. Like I have goosebumps right now. And then when
you know how I took that scene?
What?
I took that scene as it was one of the first times in his life where he was himself. When he screamed and he said, "Someone please fucking help me, I'm dying." Like, even though nobody paid attention or no one cared, it was the first time he was vulnerable. It was the first time he spoke out. It was the first time he said, "This is who I am." And he went to the bathroom, and I think maybe the throw up was more symbolic that he was like releasing that toxin, but also like the cutting of the chest open and opening himself up was like him opening up maybe to himself of this is who I really am. And maybe I am whatever this title is, or this non-binary, trans, gay, whatever it may be. But he opened that up and he was essentially showing that like his heart is still there and his heart is whatever his nostalgia is. And it was the first time in his entire life where he felt like he was himself. And and it was only a brief moment in a bathroom that when he leaves, he's apologizing for his moment of clarity and his moment of finally accepting who he is, and no one's paying attention. He's apologizing to nothing, to no one, for no reason. And it just ends. And we don't know if he ever found that release, if he continued the rest of his life with that release, because like he's also someone who said he had a family and loves his family more than anything, but it still doesn't give him joy and happiness. It still doesn't show who he is as a person. But going real quick, Art King, thank you so much for the super chat donation. That means more than you know. Gonna check out this movie after the review. Thank you so much. Super chat donations, don't get many of them, but I really appreciate that. But going back to Maddie, there's two ways I look at it. Do I think she left her small town? Because she's tried it. She's left her small town. She went to bigger cities. She thought she was finding who she was and maybe finding solace in a bigger city of being accepted for who she is. And she said it still didn't work out for her because she still felt like she had to go back and have that closure with him. So was she trying to run away with him, or was she going to take her own life? And she wanted to do that with him as well, because maybe she kind of said like, there's no place for us to be in this world. And her only way out was to end herself. So that's kind of where I'm kind of stuck with it, is like the whole aspect of the show thing. I don't think that's a reality. I think that was like them kind of living vicariously through the show. So I think a lot of that aspect of the movie, in my brain, I kind of watch that as that's their reality of coping to the real world via the show. And I don't think the two cross over like Stranger Things, if that makes sense. Like in their brain, they see that, because like a kid, when you're playing in your imagination, you're like, oh, I'm in Madison Square Garden and I'm jumping off the top rope. But in reality, I'm just jumping off my dresser onto a wrestling buddy. You know what I mean? And so I feel like the way I perceive the movie is the pink opaque bleeding into their reality was them kind of like, that was the only time they ever felt somewhat normal, is if they felt they were in that reality. But I think the way I perceived it, I think Maddie took her life, because he's like, I've never seen her again.
Yeah, there, yeah, for sure. That's rough. That aspect, like if you think that at the end, it's such a sad ending, like anyway. But then if you think it that way, I mean, that's a really bummer like of an ending. But
but once again, like this movie is an art piece that you stare at. Oh, sorry, there's a little delay. I apologize. Like this movie is an art piece you stare at, and 100 people can look at the same painting and get a different get their own interpretation of it. Like we just talked about one scene and had two different things. And if people in the chat have seen this movie, tell us what you think of a certain aspect and we'll talk about it. But I'm sorry, go ahead, finish what you're saying.
So like when she goes back to see Owen and they go to the bar and everything, and then they go into, what was it, with like the projector and everything all around, and she's explaining what she's been through. And it's like this whole long stretch of thing where he's thinking she's crazy. And, she goes off about how she like buried herself, and like how when she went missing a little while later, the show got canceled. And like the final episode was Tara and Isabel getting killed and their hearts being taken out. And like how she paid some guy to bury her alive and everything, so she could like go through all of this in her head and then like come back out to like go find him and everything. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. That movie's a lot.
I think the constellations are they're symbolic to her of her. She's going back to the stars. She's going to go to a different realm. She wants to go to a different reality. She wants to be out of this world because she doesn't feel like she belongs or she fits in. She doesn't feel loved. She doesn't feel accepted. And essentially, I feel like that was her telling him that the only release they're going to have is they have to go through that burial process again, because she felt like she went through like a part of it when I was watching it felt like she went through a suicide attempt, realized halfway through that she still had something to do, and like kind of backed out and had a moment of clarity. But then maybe her moment of clarity was she has to do this with Owen, and that's why she had to go back and find him. And then she took the show literally to try to live out through the show and end it with him together, because that was the only true friend she had, and the bond was the show, which is fucking crazy and deep. Because even like in the show, right? So like she even said to him, like, do you remember the thing, like when we were in the basement and talking and doing this, and like he was in a dress, you know what I mean? Like he wore female clothing and he pretended to be this character, and he was being himself, but he was repressing those memories as well, where he was kind of like it was coming back to him, like, oh shit, like. And one of the craziest things, and how you kind of talked about too, where you think she's crazy, is mental health is going to be a big thing in this movie. If you're someone who probably has mental health issues as well as maybe acceptance issues or identifying yourself issues, like this is gonna blend into this too. But like she said, this analogy that resonated so much with me is this, like her head feels like a snow globe, where you know you look at the snow globe and you feel like you have an idea of a reality, but once it gets shaken up, you're lost again. Like you don't know where reality blends in with everything else. And that was another really deep message she said in that one too. But yeah, let me see what I had. There's something here I had too. Yeah, a lot of it we kind of talked about. Oh, this is kind of a fun one. I know that the person doing it is the actual member of the band from what I've been reading, but so in the scene where they're at their bar and they're singing, the music is just like almost like it's written about their life. And another thing when it comes to music and art, like you listen to a song and you're like, are they following me? Like you kind of feel kind of narcissistic that you think it's about you. Like you're so vain, you think the song is about you. But once again, you connect with art, and they're in a bar singing, and this bar is singing, like they're the band singing, and it sounds like the song was written for them. Like the way the music and the melodies and the soundtrack play into this movie, it was done very, very well. But the singer that's singing the heavier screamer song, I thought was Rhea Ripley. Like it looks just like Rhea Ripley. I did write that down too. Yeah. Fuck. There was another scene I would definitely wanted to dive into that I felt like was really, I wanted to get your opinion on. I'm trying to rack my brain on it. Oh, the dad, right? So it kind of paints the dad as being this like cold-hearted, not really worrying about his son, neglectful. I don't know what just happened here. It just said StreamYabs, please refrain from something. So they probably typed this whole thing out and it probably blocked it. So if this is not your full message, just kind of like come back with this part 2. I really apologize. Sometimes, like now that I have this like StreamYard thing, sometimes it blocks. But I believe Maddie took her own life, how the one character did in the show. I think in some way it's based on her life in the show and the characters in it, because she saw the show as light in the dark. 100% agree, Felicity. If there's more to that, please just copy and like break it up into a certain thing. I know sometimes if you do too many emojis, the Streamlab thing grabs you too. Yeah, but the dad. So you kind of think of it this way, like the dad has a very introverted son who they're very protective of, because maybe, who knows, we don't know their backstory, right? So all we know is what the kid's going through, but like we don't know the struggles of the dad. And then he lost his mother to cancer. So the dad's probably even more reserved, of just trying to figure things out and just trying to go through life and going through his own probably things. But the scene where he's being sucked into the TV, I kind of took that as almost like symbolic as like maybe it was a suicide attempt, and the dad was trying to help him back out of it by bringing him upstairs and like being there for him, and he's puking out the TV static, and he's puking out the juice of just like, is the dad like, where you kind of question reality and you question mental health, is like this kid someone who the dad has to always like be on his guard for, of maybe he suffers to that extent of he cannot be alone. We don't really know because a lot of like aspects of the character you're not fully immersed into. So when I seen the dad kind of being there for him and pulling him out of the TV and then taking him upstairs and trying to like kind of comfort him, I was like, oh, that added another layer to the dad that I thought maybe like he was misrepresented. You know what I mean? Because like you only see a little bit, and sometimes when especially when you're a kid, right? Like I had a friend growing up who used to really talk bad about his dad, and then I understood what the kid was going through and how his feelings were valid and he felt alone. But then I went to his house and you're like, oh, this family's going through stuff as well, and the dad's going through his own things, and he's trying his best to be there for his kid, but doesn't know how because there's no communication. And it's just like those generational curses. So that was one of the things that really resonated with me with the dad, is just like I felt like he was kind of misrepresented. But when I see him trying to help him in that scene, I was like, oh, he's actually probably a good guy. It's just they're both two people who are probably in the 90s, males who are probably living with very toxic masculinity, who just don't know how to sit down and have a conversation.
I like that. I like what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that for sure.
Yeah. Also with the tones of like sexuality in this movie, I obviously I can't relate. That's not an aspect of life that I can speak on or I have any experience with. But as someone who's would identify as, you know, an ally, I'm learning more because I have friends in the community. I always think when someone's telling me like around my age of like, hey, I grew up in a small coal region town like I did, and coming out was I couldn't imagine. Like I didn't feel accepted or wanted because I was a nerd. Like I was a kid who was into pop culture and video games and stuff that like if you didn't play sports, you weren't shit in my school. And how it affected me mentally growing up, feeling I wasn't accepted or loved, or feel like I always had to literally fist fight for my life at some days, or run home from school so I don't get jumped. And then like I think of someone who's gay or in the community or just queer in general who struggle with life, and like this movie kind of encapsulates that time frame as well of just being like small town, small-minded people and someone just struggling to feel wanted or loved or accepted. It was a really powerful. There was a few times I was watching, I was like, all right, don't. I still have a little bit of toxic masculinity. Like, don't you cry, all right? Don't you fucking cry. But yeah, it's a lot, man. I think more people should see this movie. I agree. It was very good. I'm glad you picked it.
Thank you. I really thought this movie deserved more recognition because, like I said, it just like barely advertised. It was like not really in any theaters. I really felt like it slipped through the cracks for a lot of people. I talked to quite a few people about it, and some people were like, I'd never even heard of that. Like most of the people, like, my friend that I went to go see it with was like, I've never even heard of this. I have no idea what this is. I'm going in completely blind. And I was just like, let me know what you think,
Yeah. Now, have you had conversations where people all pulled something different out, or what are some other takes that you've heard from people speaking of this movie that they have pulled out, or even like yourself, like other things that you've gotten out of the movie or scenes?
For sure, like some people that have seen it, they didn't really like get it, and I'm just like, hey, just watch like some explanation videos, or like I've tried to explain some things out of it. Like I showed both of my parents the trailer for it, like because when I got home from seeing it, I was like, this movie was awesome. Like I want to go see it again right away as soon as I can. And I showed both my parents the trailer, and they're both like, oh, that looks interesting. Like, it looks deep. Like, I'd like to see it. But then like in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't think they would get it or like really like think into it or like watch like an explanation video on it and everything. Like I feel like it's deeper than what some people are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like I said, I feel like some people they go to the movies and they just want to like sit back, like not really have to think too much, and they kind of like check out in the head, and they're just like they just want to watch something fun. But this is more like a deeper, like complex film that I feel like could definitely bring out like emotions for people like it did for me. Like I kind of felt like numb at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like stuck in my seat. I was just like I don't even like, you know, the hamster was like in the wheel like going, and I was just like I didn't really know like what to say other than like wow, like whoa, like at the end of the movie. And then like I watched like all these um different reviews for it, and you know, then I learned about like the director and how they came up with the story and how it was like, you know, seriously like part of them and their journey and everything. So like that made me appreciate it more and made me want to go see it more, and like my love for it definitely like went up. And then it was like the second time I watched it after I already like gathered a bunch of things after I saw it the first time, it hit harder, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like it felt like
Yeah.
more like I understood everything a little bit better. And then like every time I watch it, I'm still, you know, like I said, I watched it for the fifth time today. And even at the end of the movie, I was like, this is sad. Like, you know, like it like hurts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it,
Yeah.
I don't know, it hits me every time. Like
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
scenes, like it's always like, wow.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that scares me with it, as someone who's trying to chase a uh like the hamster wheel is a great analogy, but like I'm chasing this art, right? Like I would love for this to become something that I can make a journey or like a lifestyle where I can make this as my job. You know what I mean? Because I like the idea of punching a time clock and just going to work every day and then trying to work to your 100 and fucking retiring and looking at the state of the world. It's like you almost lose hope, and you're like, and conformity scares the fuck out of me. And kind of seeing him conform and just working his job and just going through it and just like growing old and just being like, I let my whole life go. But the way to tie it in here, there's a scene in it, which I thought there's two scenes where they like watching the movie and gathering your information on it. I liked how towards the end of the movie, when he's in the theater and he's cleaning, and it says thank you for watching. Like it was kind of almost like the director in
Hold
that
on, you
scene.
froze up for a second.
Oh, how I said how he's in the movie theater and the director kind of had the thank you for watching on the screen, almost like a fourth wall break of like thanking the audience for kind of being there and watching. But I want to pull up a photo because this is huge. This quote, this line, this whole thing of when they're having this big deep moment, and he kind of blends back in through reality and he sees this image, and it's just chalk drawing, and it says there's still time. And it kind of ends on that note too, because he's still old. He's an older man. He's hasn't lived his life to his full potential. But the only way I'm trying to think is like he leaves that job that day and thinks, I don't have a lot of time, but there still is time. I can be who I want to be. I can find happiness. I can still chase my dreams. I can still pursue. I can change the direction of my life, even though I'm at this elderly age in my life and I feel like I've wasted so much time. There still is time. And I so the overall like positivity thing, so I don't want people to watch this and think it's just a depressing movie and I can't get myself through it if you're going through it, is that was the most powerful visual to me through it. Is like, I'm 37, I'm trying to be a YouTuber talking content with people, but like if that's what my dream is and that's what I want to be, I don't care if I'm 37, or I don't care if you're 60. I don't care I don't care if you're 12. If you have a dream or you have a purpose or you have a what you think is your purpose in life, don't let time, like the longer you wait, it's only going to cause more regret. Go for what you want in life.
Exactly. And it was like how he was like literally suffocating like in this reality, and how he
Mm-hmm.
like at the end of the movie, I felt, you know, he was like he was like struggling to breathe. Like he looked like hell at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, like you said, it was like such a like relief and everything, like once he finally like got the courage to like break open his chest and everything.
Yeah.
And like you see him finally being like you know, and then he goes right back to like being like
Yeah. He
not
leaves
great, but
that
he
same
was like,
place
I'm
of his bathroom.
dying.
Yeah. He leaves the
Yeah.
safe place of that bathroom and he goes back out into the real world, and he's immediately like he's walking through a place and he's apologizing to people who aren't even listening to him.
Yeah, no one
Like,
cares.
he's so
Like he
concerned
was
about
screaming.
Yeah. But when he was screaming like that, did he actually do that in front of people? You know what I mean? Because like the way the scene was shot is everyone was just kind of like frozen in time. Like they didn't like, once again, like almost like you're putting so much stress on what everybody else's perception of you is. And but at the end of the day, like unless you grab it yourself, no one around you for the most part is going to care in your everyday life. And that kind of sucks to have that depression, to think that, but that you have to find it within you to find that happiness and find who you are and who you belong and where you need to be, because it's not going to hand it to you. You know what I mean? Like he's in his moment of just like struggling.
Exactly.
He had to do it by himself. You know, he lost his dad, he lost his mom, he lost his friend. He has a family, but we've never really gained that connection with his family. So we don't know what it is, but we know visually how you're saying by the end, he's just destroyed. He looks lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the one time he only mentioned the one time about his family, and like you never see them or anything. But yeah, he's just like disheveled and like given up by the end of the film, which is like really sad.
Yeah. So we have a question in the chat. I am awesome says, what is your favorite scary movie?
What is my favorite scary movie? I really that's so hard. Oh, I recently it's been like Terrifier 2.
Okay.
I've been really loving Terrifier 2.
We
I
are
also really
entering
love
the
Trick or
year of
Treat and the
Terrifier.
Saw movies.
Have you been seeing the
Oh
leaks
yeah, big
of Spirit of
time. I'm so
Halloween?
excited for the third one. Yep.
It's all
Oh
Terrifier. Like
yeah. And
Terrifier's getting merchandise, Funko Pops, T-shirts. Like he has arrived. Like art is mainstream horror now.
I know, and like I've been a huge fan since the first movie. Like as soon as I saw the first movie, I was like obsessed with it. Like I got a tattoo of Art the Clown before the second one came out, and I met David Howard Thornton like at a little horror convention, and he had no line. Like he was just like standing there talking to other someone, like the person that was like handling like his money and stuff like that. Like there was like no one around. It was just like them two like shooting the shit. And I was like standing there all nervous. I was like, oh, I got it. Because I went and I met him. And then I ended up meeting up. Like I met most of the cast from the first and the second movie, like the main characters, and some of like the background, like side characters too. But yeah, so I'm super excited that it's like blown up like how it has. Because I feel like the second movie is just, I feel like it blew the first one out of the water a bit.
Yeah.
So since then, it's like, and now it's going to Christmas. I'm so excited because Christmas and Halloween are my favorite holidays. So it's like
the
to
mixing of your two favorite things.
kind of like a mix of the two is really exciting.
Yeah, so
yeah, I go to like the movie theater dressed as Art the Clown.
I know you're all about it. I love how when you dress up and you do your thing, it's super exciting. So when you go to a lot of conventions and you get to meet a lot of people, and I'm excited for you because I feel like it's gonna get to a point where the guy who plays Terrifier and the actors and everyone who's involved is gonna get to a point where those lines are gonna be insane. He's gonna be like Robert Englund level, I feel. But the cool thing is like I said, you have a very unique look. I feel like when someone meets you, personality wise, your personality outshines your look, and your look is immediately what draws people like, oh, that's a like there's Kim, you know what I mean? But then they talk to you and they meet you and you're so sweet and kind that like it outshines the image, if that makes sense. Have you ever had a situation where people remember you, like you go to a con, like you see him in Terrifier 1 when he has no line, and then you have a huge line of people, he's like, oh, you, like, have you ever had that experience?
Not specifically with David Howard Thornton, but he does follow me on Instagram. Like we've messaged back and forth a couple times.
Get him
But
so
actually,
yeah.
so Felissa Rose from like Sleepaway Camp.
Mm-hmm.
So I met her in Tennessee. I was out in Tennessee for a couple days and went to a convention out there, and I met her We were like chatting it up, and she's like, "Oh, where are you from?" I was like, "Oh, I'm from New Jersey." And she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be there like next month or so for this other convention." I was like, "Oh, I'll be there." And she's like, "Oh, make sure you come say hi." And she took a picture with me like on her personal phone. And then like a month or so later, when she was at this convention, I just went up to her and she was just like, "Oh, like I remember you from Tennessee." And then she like took another picture with me, and we were like chatting it up and everything.
That's awesome.
So yeah, there's and then what is his name? There was another. I went to a convention, um, and the one Alex Brightman. His name was Alex Brightman, and he plays Beetlejuice from like when it was on Broadway, and he's in Has Been Hotel. He's a voice actor.
Yeah.
So I met him on like a Saturday, and he remembered my name. It was funny because like after I met him later in the day, I was like walking, and he was at the table, and he was like, "Hi, Kim," and I was like, "Hey," like just like walking by, and then later he was like being driven. He was like being driven away in like a golf cart or something, and he made the guy stop, and he was just like, "Bye, Kim," and everything, and I was like, "Bye," and then
And we're
like
like,
the next day, so
"Oh,
I
it's
got his
Kim."
autograph. Yeah, I was like, nice. Like, thanks for remembering me. And then so like I actually got his autograph, and I realized I smudged it. Totally my fault. So I went back to the convention the next day, and I was like talking to like one of the workers. I was like, "Hey, is there any way that I could just have him like fix it a little bit here, because I smudged it and like the ink kind of like came off the picture." So they were like, "Oh, like I don't know, like they don't really do that and everything." And I'm like, I think he remembers me. I think he'll remember me. He like kept saying my name yesterday. She's like,
Mhm.
"All right." So she took the picture and went up, and she's like, "Oh, you can like come or so they went up. She went up and was like talking to him, and she pointed at me, and I was like, and he was just like, "Oh, it's Kim." And she's like, "Yeah, come up." It was like the next day, like hours into like the next day at the convention. So like I went up to the table, and he was like, "Oh, what's up, Kim? Like, how are you?" And um he was like joking with me because like I kind of screwed up the autograph, and he gave me a new one for free. And then like one of the guys in line or whatever was like, "Oh, like rookie mistake," or something about like me smudging the autograph. And he was just like, "Oh, don't you dare talk to Kim like that."
Yeah. That's
He's
dope.
like, so that was
I had some
cool.
experience like that on the
There's been like a
wrestling scene.
couple other people like here and there.
Yeah. I would do like when I was at PPW, I'd help with the meet
Nice.
and greets. And I sat like I would sit with like I was the handler who would sit with them, and like PPW is not a big venue. So you have that big rush, and then it's essentially like 2 hours of you sitting with somebody with nobody around, and you just get to chat with them, which is super cool. So like I sat with like Lance Archer and Brian Cage and like who was another one that was there? Killer Cross or Carrying Cross on TV now. Like I don't like I went to like a con in Philly, and it was packed, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people there. And I kind of walked by, and I was like, "Hey, what's up, Lance?" And he goes, "What's up, Anthony?" And I go, "Holy shit, I didn't think you were gonna remember me." He's like, "Of course, man. We sat for 4 hours." And it was like a year later. Like I met Willow at a show, and Willow's like, "Of course, Anthony. Like you bought one of my original shirts." Like I was like, "Oh, that's like." So when you make that impression on somebody, you're like, it humanizes them, right? Because they're like, "Oh, you idolize them, and you love their art, and you love who they are, and then they like remember you as a person." It's a cool moment. And I know you do a lot of cons, so I definitely wanted to kind of showcase that here before we close out. You went to some cons, or you went to a con, and you went to the Funko headquarters. Anything you want to share of your trip that you want to tell the class?
Not that I have on me at the moment. I'm I love like when I don't have anything like much to say. I mean, it was really cool, but
Did you get to meet
they I'm
anybody
really
that
excited
you
for like
were
the
excited to meet?
terp. I met Priscilla Presley. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, so I actually went to one over the weekend, and it was like more so like an anime convention. They had the voice of Goku, and they had like a bunch of people from Pokemon, and I'm huge into Pokemon, so I got to meet like multiple of the voice actors, including like the original Ash and like James from Team Rocket. A couple people that voiced Pokemon like Meowth and Psyduck, and like the Eevees, the evolutions
That sucks.
and whatnot, and the original Mewtwo. I met like 6 people on Saturday. I didn't get to post the pictures of that just yet though.
Okay, well, definitely follow Kim.
But everyone was really cool. They did.
Go ahead, finish. The delay is crazy. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find my spot.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, it was really cool because I have Pokemon tattoos on my legs. So I was talking to when I was like talking to the voice actors and everything. I was just like, I've loved this since I was a kid, like as far as I can remember, because I was born the same year that the show came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like showing them the tattoos on my legs, and it was like some of the characters that, you know, the people that voiced the characters, they loved it. They went nuts over the tattoo. And like the one guy who voiced Meowth, I have a tattoo of Meowth on my leg. And he was like taking pictures of my leg, and he was just like, "Can I just take a picture of like you?" And he was just like, "Your art." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And he was like, he was taking pictures of me in like different angles.
Yeah, the follow shit right there from Meowth. That's awesome. Where can
Yeah,
people find and support you so they can check out your Instagram and see all your cool adventures?
It's waiting_insanity666.
There it is. Oh, we lost Kim. I think she got disconnected. We'll give her a couple moments to pop back in here. Until she does, let's post it to you guys here. What do you have any ideas for movies you want to see covered? They don't have to be horror based. They could be anything or anything pop culture, whether it's a music, whether it's music, movies, television shows. Don't give me too many books unless it's like a graphic novel. Your boy's tight on money, so it's hard to go and fund and pay for a lot of these right now. But huge thank you once again, Art King 187 for the $20 super chat. It means the world to me. There is, if you guys are interested, I know times are tough, people are struggling, but we do have a membership program that helps the show. You can go as little as $1 or as high as whatever you want. So if you want to, if you can swing it, there's Patreon, as well as there's a join button that you can do, and it's a monthly thing that if enough people do it, it helps the show go, because I put a lot into trying to upgrade equipment. There is things I want to get, new cameras I want to do. I used to have this huge setup with all these fancy cameras, but I have a little bit of a joint disorder. So I struggle when it comes to carrying a lot of things, and I mess up my shoulders and my back, and then I'm in pain for a bunch of days, and it's the whole thing. But so I found these really cool cameras that I can literally put 3 of them in a fanny pack and do a 3-camera shoot and do all this cool stuff. So I want to do more reviews and different content when it comes to a whole bunch of different things. So if any support to the show, it really helps out. So if you guys can do that, thank you. But once again, Art King, you're a godsend. I appreciate that so much. My last thing I wanted to kind of get to you, Kim, is next movie idea. What are you thinking?
Yeah, first off, sorry I got cut off there.
That's okay.
But yeah, I don't know, my connection dropped. But so I don't know. I have to think about that, and we'll go back and forth. Did you see Longlegs?
I have not yet, no.
Maybe that could be one that we talk about. I saw that last night.
All right, that's possible. I know there's a few people clamor for that one, so if that one doesn't land, we'll definitely do something. Maybe we even go back into the pool of maybe some older stuff too. But there's a lot of that's right. This is the one we were gonna do that everyone's talking about. People said I need to watch this movie, so let's talk about
Let's do that
first.
one.
I know that was on the list, and then you gave me this one, which I really appreciate you saying this movie. So like to close it out, I really want to say thank you. I appreciate your fandom and your love for this, and saying, hey, definitely check this out because you've made me a fan of this movie, this director. I want to seek more stuff out. I love how A24 can scare the shit out of you, but with the craziest things, but also scare you with the world and how it could be scary. You know what I mean? And I definitely recommend to people watching this just to kind of put a button on this. We kind of went through some fun facts and did you knows with the Buffy the Vampire Slayer and stuff like that. Like the movie for me really pulled a lot of like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps and those old school like shows. But the biggest takeaway is like we kind of covered that as well without kind of going into that. But what I would score this movie, and I feel like I'm a cop out because I always say I protect the 4. Like I don't want to anything a 4 and above is something I just don't give out a lot. maybe I won't cop out. I'll go 3.78. I'll go 3.78. I'll protect the
Okay.
4, but I think if I rewatch this again, which I definitely want to, this can easily be a 4 out of 5. I really, really enjoy this movie. I definitely think people should watch it. And I'm really, really curious when we post this. If you're listening to the audio of this in your car, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, put a comment, send us to us on social media, tag us, and take a screenshot and just tell us what you thought of the movie, or what you pulled out of it, or how this movie affected you. Because I think this movie is definitely is gonna invoke conversation and invoke feelings, and I'm just curious of which ones it did for you. It was really, really beautiful, and yeah, I really appreciate you turning me on to this movie.
I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. I obviously definitely did. Definitely gonna get a tattoo from it, and yeah, I just really wanted to like get this name out there more because I feel like it definitely deserves more recognition.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, that's gonna wrap it up. Not Cool in High School horror for episode 156. We will be back tomorrow with some more horror movie madness. Myself and returning guests did an interview with them very early on. I did a 5 questions. I don't think we did an interview. Did we do an interview? I don't think we did an interview. I think we just did for my very first 5 questions with ABJ was with them. And now they're coming back, not just for the interview, but for their own movie review. So myself and Trixie Valentine, to continue my Scream Queens, are going to come, and we're going to talk about the original Carrie movie. So definitely go check out the links below to go follow Trixie on all social media before the episode happens. Do your homework tonight. Watch Carrie if you want to rewatch it, and join us tomorrow in the live stream tomorrow at 7:00. Trixie is a drag queen as well as a queer sex educator. I'm sure there's a longer title that Trixie would say that I fucked up, but they're very, very insightful. They've been very beautiful when it comes to turning me on to the drag community and teaching me things about the drag art that I didn't know, as well as educating me on the scene, you know what I mean, and teaching me an understanding of what people of in the LGBTQ QT community go through. So I owe a lot to Trixie. I love her to death. But join us tomorrow as we do that. Then we will be back for Tornado Tag Podcast on Wednesday night. We'll review one of the worst wrestling shows of all time, King of the Ring 1995. And then on Sunday, we're going to be doing back to our What If series, where we rebook King of the Ring 95 and try to make it better. So Kim, you're a wrestling fan. Behind King Mabel here, there's 2 gentlemen that are opening the doors to the King of the Ring 95. Do you know who those 2 gentlemen are?
Honestly, no, I couldn't tell you.
They're 2 young teenagers who turned out to be one of the most historic tag teams of all time. That is Jeff and Matt Hardy. They are opening the doors of King of the Ring 95. I think they're 15, 16 years old in that.
I love the Hardy Boys.
Yeah,
very nice.
So I put that in there. And then Monday, the 29th, we'll be having one of my favorite people on the wrestling scene, Sammy Chaos, will be on the podcast Monday. And then we're ending the month with one of the founding members and original bass players, the original bass player of Taking Back Sunday, Eddie Reyes, will be on the podcast to close out the month. So we're going to get a little music representation, talk to Eddie, see what he's up to. But that's going to do it for the month of July. Slowly starting to book August. So if you guys want to get in for August, hit me up. Like I said, it's going to be a lot harder to get on the show because between Kim and Sunny and Trixie and Dante and everybody who's been my returning co-hosts, I feel like I want to do more content with them. And maybe 1 or 2 episodes a month will be somebody new coming in to do stuff with me. But because I definitely like having, that comfortability with the guests, and because I'm finding myself doing these as well. So I like my returning co-hosts. But thank you guys so much. The support means the world to me. Like I said, go to the links below, check out some merchandise, grab some cool shit, follow us on social media. It doesn't cost a dime and it helps us out a lot. But that's going to do it. Here's some music by the Converse Kid. And we'll see you on the next one, which is tomorrow at 7:00. See you then. Bye. Don't know why it's doing that. Bonus Marvel scene, real quick. Lily said, Kim, your rating. I didn't ask you for your rating. I'm a terrible host.
No, you're fine. So for a 1 out of 4, one
5.
out of 5, I'd
Yep.
give it a 4.
All right. There's the 4.
4.
That's your post-credit scene. We love you guys. We'll see you next time. We're out of here.